What is up, my dudes? I'm finally going to attempt to pop this sucker out right here, because if you remember from previous videos, it carbon wrapped everything except for this piece, and that is because of the difficulty of getting it out. But I'm finally going to attempt it, and we'll see what happens. I've watched some other videos on it. I'll be sure to link them down below, because I don't want to take credit for how I figured out how to get this piece out, because I owe it all to the other video that I watched, this one specific guy. So I'll definitely link his down below. If you're looking for like a full DIY on how to pop all these trims out and wrap them, his videos are much better for like the DIY guy. If you're just looking for inspiration, you came to the right place. But for the DIY, go check him out. Anyways, let's jump into it. You're just gonna need a couple trim tools, a T20. You're also gonna need like a micro T20. So like obviously when this is on here, you can't really get into the tight spaces, so that's why you got to have one of these little tools that you can just put a tip into, such as this, so you can work into tight spaces, because there are some bolts or screws under here that are very hard to get to, hence why you need that little guy. So I think you might also need an 8mm. We'll see once we get this off, but let's jump into it. Okay, so step one, you're gonna put the key in the ignition. That way you free this sucker up. Gotta step on the brake. Put it in neutral. I'll put the parking brake on so it doesn't roll. So I believe the purpose of putting it in neutral is so we have room to wiggle this around and move it once we pop it up. But you're gonna need a trim tool to get in here and pop. See, even with this in neutral, it's still kind of in the way. Let's put it all the way back into sport. Okay, then that sucker pops out. Also gonna need to slide this little tray out. Next, I believe we are going to be popping this out. Like so. Okay, so you do need an 8mm for these two bolts right here. So let me go grab that real quick. Okay, so you got to finagle that whole ashtray assembly out, or whatever you want to call it, ashtray, cigarette lighter, and then you have a clip down here that you can then unplug. All right, so there are the screws that you're looking for. There's one of them. 7 more to go. All right, guys, time to be real with you. I don't have the patience for this. It's not gonna happen. Like these two screws in particular, there's one here and one here, and you got to get to them from underneath. My hands just don't fit in this space to articulate the wrench to get it even started. I can't imagine what it would be like trying to put it back together. And that's not even the hardest screws. According to the other video I watched, these two screws over here are the hardest ones to get to. So throwing in the towel on that. I'm wrapping it in place with zero experience wrapping. Let's see what it looks like, because I don't have the patience for it. And I'm a dad, and I have my 5-year-old over here. You know, he wants me to play with him, and I got to make time for him too. And it's just the reality of it. I'm not gonna sit here and mess with this thing all day and just, you know, let it ruin my mood and my temper and get aggravated with it. So just gonna do it in the car. Let's give it a shot. So my game plan is to do it in 3 pieces. I'm gonna do a piece from here to here and cut it right along that radius. Do the same thing on the driver's side, and then I'm gonna lay a piece on top that slightly overlaps it by about 1/8 of an inch right there. We'll see how it goes. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Put it back together and call it a loss. I think I got a method down. So basically, throwing a little heat to it so it shrink wraps it and gives me a hard outline. And I give myself a little cut. Terrible cut. Terrible, terrible, terrible cut. I'm doing it this way because I already did it once. I got it all cut out. And then I realized that I'm a horrible cutter, as you just saw. So I would rather tuck it. That way I don't have a cut. Look how much better that is without showing the cut. So I'm just gonna keep working this trim, like trim tool like this. Get a little heat. Sole purpose of the heat at this moment is just to give me the flexibility to give me that hard outline of the piece I'm looking for, so that I can get a cut away from that edge. Otherwise, I'm just shooting in the dark. Again, I have knifeless tape and I've yet to use it. I should probably try it one of these days. Probably works wonders. Because the way I'm doing it, you're shooting in the dark, and that really sucks. And it's, for someone who isn't experienced with it, it makes it very difficult. So I'm just kind of cutting it raw and nasty and tucking the excess crap cut away so no one can see it, like so. Holy cow, you guys. That definitely tested me for sure. So if you don't have a ton of patience and the ability to work in tight spaces, and the ability, you got to be pretty like ambidextrous too, because on the passenger side it was okay because I was able to make my cuts and everything with my left or with my right hand, but on the driver's side, getting in between like the seat and the steering wheel and getting down in there, and then also having the camera in there and trying to film and not being able to move my arms the way I wanted to, and having to try to attempt to make some of the cuts left-handed. The driver's side was an absolute cluster. So keep that in mind. But let's show you the final results. Again, I will say right now, I'm not proud that I had to do it this way. Kind of ashamed actually. But at the end of the day, I got it done. And then the reason, it's one of those things, like once you start, you got to pretty much kind of commit, because I was ready to tap out a couple times, but you know, the little clips underneath this centerpiece right here are really sharp, and they're metal, and they create scratches and stuff. Same with all these, the clips that are in this climate control panel right here too. They're all really sharp. And as you're moving them around and trying to get them out of the way so you can work, it's putting scratches in all this stuff. And I was aware of it, and I was trying to, you know, keep a rag in there, trying not to do it, trying to get enough slack in the wires so I could comfortably move these pieces out of the way so they weren't making contact. But at the end of the day, with all, it's just so frustrating. Like, you have to move things in certain spots to get to certain spots, and you're gonna put scratches in that chrome brushed metal, whatever, not chrome, but it's like a stainless brushed aluminum, whatever, trim piece right here. So at that point, then I'm like, okay, well, you know, whatever, it has some scratches in it, I could just put it back together and throw in the towel. But then, you know, it's just like you get so invested in it that you just have to push through. So at the end of the day, it looks pretty good. So one thing that kind of bugs me, or it really bugs me, but again, you know, when you just look at it, there's so much black, you don't really see it. But over here, you have basically the different angles of the carbon fiber running into your other pieces at different cross sections. So here you have the carbon fiber weave coming up this way and butting into the weave that travels this way. Same with here, this weave is traveling like this, and this weave is traveling like this. I mean, it doesn't really, like, the checkered weave of it kind of just throws out like more of like an optical illusion where it doesn't really stand out, to be honest with you, and it's all black. So all in all, it looks pretty cool. Some of you might say hack job. That's fine, you're entitled to your opinion. I agree with you, it's definitely not the right way to do it, 100%. So if you would like to call me a hack job, that's fine, I'd have to agree with you, but I got it done. And you know, it looks better than it did, I think, right? I don't know, but I don't know if you noticed, but when I was doing this piece here, I left it long by about, I don't know, 1/8 or 1/4, so that when I snapped this piece down in, everything would tuck really nicely. So I like that edge, that looks good. But yeah, all in all, if you use that tuck technique that I use, one other issue is now this piece is not a perfect smooth transition from this piece to this piece, because you have that extra material behind there kind of flaring this out a little bit now. So it definitely does stick out a little bit. Same with right here, that corner, you know, that probably could even be from me applying heat to it. I don't know, but all in all, it looks pretty cool. Whatever, it is what it is. If you want to try it, try it. Everyone says, nope, you can't do it this way, you can't do it this way, you can't do it this way. And I'd have to agree. But you shouldn't say you can't do it this way, you should say you shouldn't do it this way, because you absolutely can do it this way. And if you're a hack like me, hey, do it this way. But for a brief minute before we get into this video, I just want to share a quick story with you about God in my life. And the reason I bring this up is because I'm gonna have trouble articulating this, because that's just one of my downfalls. In my head, it all sounds good. When I try to express it to you on camera, it doesn't come out the same. So bear with me. But in all these modifications I've been doing to this car, if you're somebody that's like me, you're always like striving for that next thing. And me particularly, if I'm not being productive and checking things off my list of like things I think I need to accomplish and get done, if I'm not being productive, then I get this just deep anxiety, and it drives me up the wall. Like, if I'm not being productive, I am anxious, and it has this negative downstream effect on my family, because like it's damn near impossible for me to just sit down and relax and just enjoy like family time, because like I said, if I'm not being productive, it's just eating at me. With that being said, I set these things for myself that I convince myself I need to get done. This could be a job. This could be any goals in life, family, job, career, owning a business, having a certain car, blah, 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 blah. It's like you're always convincing yourself, or I'm always convincing myself, that this next thing is going to be the thing that, you know, makes it all make sense to me. Or that's not the right word. It makes me happy. And not to say I'm not a happy person. I'm definitely love my life, but I'm always looking for, like, for instance, this car. Like, okay, it's not the S5. I want the S5, or okay, if we're really being realistic, an RS5, or, you know, if you really want to be realistic, a Lamborghini. So, but anyways, you get the point. Like I thought this car would like do something for me, and now I got the car, and now I'm like, okay, let's start modifying the car. You know, doing the carbon trim wraps, doing the resonator delete on the exhaust, ceramic coating it. What else have we done to this car? We put the new grille on it. We're going to put a new spoiler on it. Hopefully we're going to put a full exhaust on it one day. Hopefully I'm going to lower it one day. Hopefully I'm going to put a stage 2 tune on it one day. All these things. But anyways, you convince yourself that that very next thing is just going to be that thing that like satisfies you. And I can relate this to my career as well. I was a welder. Ever since high school, I wanted to be a welder. Like, I had other aspirations, but I knew like becoming a welder was like a realistic thing. So I set out to become a welder. Then I became a welder, and I was custom fabricating motorcycles, hand building oil pans and fenders and swing arms and all these cool custom fabrication sheet metal jobs on custom choppers. So then like I said, I was a welder, and I had a really cool job custom fabricating motorcycles, and I was making good money. This was like right out of high school. Did that for a couple of years, and then that company suffered from a ton of lawsuits. It's called Big Bear Choppers. Maybe you've heard of them. Anyways, that company ended up dissolving, and then I was back out on the hunt for another job, and then I was like, okay, if I can get into the Ironworkers Union, that would be like, I'd be set for life. That would be the thing. So, what do you know? I get into the Ironworkers Union, and again, wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was just gonna be this miraculous, awesome, amazing thing that paid extremely well, and yeah, you had good union benefits and all these things, but being an ironworker sucks, you know? There's no real glory or beauty or anything cool about it. I can tell you welding motorcycles was a lot cooler. And then after being an ironworker for 5 years, I was like, I saw all these inspectors, and they're like, oh, they're just on their phones, literally just playing games and not even working, and basically telling me what to do. Man, I'm gonna become an inspector. So then I become an inspector, a CWI, Certified Welding Inspector, and did that, and that only lasted for about a year because the company I was with, it snowballed into management and all these other things. It became like the safety officer and the quality assurance manager and the welding inspector, and then it snowballed into becoming the production manager. And let me tell you, as far as like reaching the pinnacle of what I thought I could do as a welder, in my eyes, if looking back to when I was younger, I had reached the pinnacle of what I thought I could do with welding. And still, that was nothing but stress. The money still wasn't that amazing, you know? I mean, it was good. My wife didn't have to work. We had insurance, bills were paid, we owned a house, we owned cars. So yeah, it was good, trust me, but I got no fulfillment out of it. So then it was like, okay, let's sell our house and start our own business, which we did. So since I was getting no fulfillment out of reaching the pinnacle of, or what I thought was the pinnacle of a career as a welder, which transformed into what I already explained. So then I've always had like this entrepreneur mindset. So I was like, well, let's sell our house, take that money, start a business. And that's exactly what we did. Luckily, I have some really awesome friends in my life who are also entrepreneurs, and I was able to partner in with somebody who already had an established detailing business, detailing RVs, and that is what we put all of our time and effort into. And it became extremely successful right out the gate. We made a lot of sacrifices. We sold our house. We literally bought an RV, had to rent out a little parcel on somebody's property with no sewer hookups, park our RV on it, contain all of our water waste into black tanks and external tanks and have it pumped, and basically lived like an off-grid kind of sort of RV life for a solid year. And that's its whole own other story, but we made a lot of sacrifices. We sold our home to start this business, and no complaints, it's going great. And I hit numbers that I wanted to hit financially, but it still doesn't give you any sense of purpose or fulfillment, or it checked some boxes, but it didn't do anything for me, man. It's just stress. That's all it is. And so it's great because, again, my wife doesn't have to work. We now live in a home. We're renting, but we live in a home. We're not owning a home, but we live in a home. We have the vehicles. We have everything we need. We eat a really extremely healthy diet. I have a little bit of extra money at times to spend it on trying to modify this car. But all it is, it just eats up all your time and energy, and it's just stress and more anxiety. And in order to be able for it to be successful, the business, and for me to be able to afford the things that I currently afford, it takes non-stop work from before dark till after dark every single day, damn near, with the exception of winter, because again, with those moments you can work throughout the summer and the spring, you're taking all that money and you have to put aside a nest egg for taxes and for the winter months when you're not working. So spring and summer is literal non-stop, sun up, sun down, killing yourself every single day. And then you realize, for what? I don't even have the time to work on this car. The time that I do have to work on this car is in the winter when it's raining, which therefore I can't work on the car because it's raining, because I don't have a garage or a shop. So it's like, and even if I did have the shop, yeah, that'd be great. And again, one of those things I think I would like, oh, if I just had a shop, that would be the answer. But it's not. There is no answer. Well, there is an answer. Sorry, there is no materialistic answer is what I'm trying to say. And the point of all this being is, over this winter, when I have only been working 1 day a week, if that, some weeks not at all, like, the anxiety is back. It's back hardcore. And I've found the only thing that has changed my outlook and perspective and my attitude, which hopefully, saves my family, because if you keep going at that high stress anxiety level, guess what? Your family's going to suffer. And what's it going to do for you? What's it going to do? It's going to destroy your family in one way or another. The stress and fighting and arguing and all the stuff that comes with it, it's not healthy by any means. Whether you survive it or not, it isn't healthy. So the only thing that I found that is actually recentering me and giving me a new outlook and attitude is God. And I've always believed, I've always gone to church, I've always been a Christian, but I can honestly tell you that I've been a lukewarm Christian. I'm stealing that from somebody I just heard that from recently. But I've been a lukewarm Christian. What I mean by that is, like I said, I believe. I claim to be a Christian. I go to church and I pray. And that's about it. But I never fully said, I'll pray to God and ask for, hey, show me ways to be a better Christian. Show me ways to be more like you in your image. But did I really mean it? And did I really actually look for it? Like, okay, maybe you see someone who needs their help changing their tire and you're like, oh, cool, here's my chance. Help them change the tire. Yeah, that's great. But that's not salvation. That's not God's will necessarily. The point I'm getting at is, so the change happened for me when I looked at my life, and instead of trying to put my own will into God's purpose, or saying like, hey, God, show me purpose, show me will, show me what you want. But I always had like me putting myself into that and the things that I want, like say I want to serve other people, and then the example I just made, like, oh, helping someone change their tire on the side of the road, like that's almost like you're putting your will into it. But what you really have to do is just completely be submissive and just kill yourself, not physically, but kill yourself and your will. And by doing that, you give it to God, and by giving it to God, he then takes that, and then that is your purpose. Like, it's not like you have to do this, or you have to work this job, or you have to do this many good deeds, or you have to pray this many times. It's none of that. It's just giving yourself over to God, and then he will then work in your life without you having any will or control over it. And all of a sudden, all these opportunities will start to arise. And then it's not even, it's a lot of things people will call coincidence or karma. But then if you actually realize it, it's the fact that you killed yourself to God, and then he took that, and now you are basically clay or putty, and he can now use you to work through you because you forfeited yourself to him. And it's not even, like I said, it's not like going and feeding the homeless or working a soup kitchen. Although those things might happen, don't get me wrong. If those opportunities come up, absolutely take them. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, you will naturally just all of a sudden have all these opportunities, and at the same time, the heart to do them the way that they need to be done. One quick small example. The other night, like, this is such a dumb little example, but if you don't, like, we were going to make homemade macaroni and cheese for my son's birthday, and my mom has a really awesome homemade macaroni and cheese recipe that came from one of my grandparents, and my daughter is sitting there helping me. We're gonna go and make this, and we had already kind of started shredding cheese and doing all these things, and she goes, well, why don't we just call grandma and get the recipe from her? And I was like, why would we do that? when we could just Google one right now, like real quick, and just make it. So we Google one and we start making it, and then I go, like, wow, how stupid and immature and ignorant of me was that? Again, I put myself first and convenience first of having this stupid cell phone that I could just Google something real quick, instead of taking that opportunity to call my mom and just ask her for her recipe real quick. Do you know, which we ended up doing, we were already halfway or even further through making it, but the point was I should have gotten out of my own dang way right there and just called my mom, got her recipe. So we actually ended up calling her anyways and getting the recipe from her. And I don't know what that did for her, but it's just one little thing like that, that who knows, maybe that made her whole day right there, just calling her and asking her for her recipe instead of, well, the point being actually too was my mom was coming to this birthday celebration for my son, so she was going to be eating the macaroni and cheese. So don't you think she probably would have been a little offended if I didn't call her and got her recipe, and she shows up to the party and macaroni and cheese is homemade there, and oh well, okay, why didn't you call me for my recipe? How dumb would I have looked then, but I guarantee you, if I hadn't started praying and letting God kind of take the reins on my heart and my feelings and my life, I guarantee you I would not have called her. I would have just Googled it. But since these past couple weeks, I've been diving more into scripture. I've been diving more into podcasts around God. I've been filling my head and my ears. The media that I consume these past couple weeks has been all God. No, sometimes you can just get on YouTube and watch something about whatever, detailing, modifying your Audi, whatever it may be. Instead, I'm choosing media centered around becoming a better Christian. And just by doing that, it's transforming my outlook on things. So yeah, like the example I just gave, I fumbled at first, but I caught myself and was able to fix it. So now the next time an opportunity comes up like that, I will already have the experience and the muscle memory to hopefully catch it at the front end before it happens, instead of catching it halfway through and correcting it. But the point being, when you give yourself over to God and you fill yourself with the scripture and the media of God and his word instead of all this other garbage, your thoughts and your feelings will naturally transform, and God will work through you without you having to think about it. Or it could even come down to stuff like I was talking about anxiety. Like, you start to feel that anxiety, I can throw on a podcast and listen to the word of God, like someone like Chad Wright with 3 of 7 Project, and I can just transform my whole attitude for the day by listening to that and move forward with my day without anxiety from that point forward, just because I took that time to fill my mind and thoughts with scripture and with God instead of other things like detailing or guns or cars. What's up, buddy?
What I sawed.
Whoa, that's awesome. You just drew that and you cut it out and you folded it and everything?
No, I used my tongue to whip it out.
Oh, you got it wet and then you ripped it?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool.
I did me.
That's
my
awesome,
face.
buddy. So I now realize, with how much I've been rambling, that this is now its own video. But I hope somebody hears this and it has an effect on you. Like, I'll share another story here soon, but I recently prayed, like, God, instead of me wanting my will and praying for you to use your will, but to somehow confirmation bias my will, instead show me your will. And I felt that day that it was mentorship. Like, I wanted to mentor somebody, and that same day an opportunity to mentor somebody else to help bring someone else to God came up, and I'm going to share that story with you next on the next one of these little Audi talks. But So stay tuned for that. But the whole point is, if you're not forfeiting yourself to God, then you're blindly, egotistically not seeing God's will in your life, and you're in your own way, and you're not, instead of accepting that it's God. Anyways, I hope that helped somebody in some way, and maybe help bring one, even if it's just one person, closer to God. Man, that is amazing. And I feel so much more purpose and joy in knowing that I'm building a relationship with God, and I'm building a life toward eternity instead of this physical life on earth, because this physical life on earth is truly 90 to 95%, if not more, stress, pain, and hard work. Maybe 5% of it, probably even less, is filled with joy. And so why would we invest ourselves in these flesh materialistic things instead of into God, who we can gain a huge insight and beautiful relationship through toward eternity, instead of this short time here on earth toward the flesh. God bless. Catch y'all on the next one. It stopped raining. Maybe we can get this Chrome delete done now. So see you on that episode. Peace.